This is Susan Bradley for CSO Online. Not a day that goes by that we don't see or read or have to deal with some sort of security issue. From malware on our desktops to ransomware, to supply chain attacks, to patches we have to deal with, there's a headline every day that makes us stop and think of what we need to do. Often on normal networks, you as the CSO make choices, and sometimes you need help in deciding what is the important thing to do. Recently, the MITRE organization put together the Defend Matrix, which kind of helps to lay out those items that you need to pay attention to. Right now I'm going to target this section on the left called Harden, and it talks about some of the items that you need to look at. Now, typically in a network environment, application hardening may be outside of the emphasis that you can do. Typically, you purchase software, you don't have the ability to influence the hardening of the application. Now, you can talk to the vendor, ask them if they're doing any of these steps. Dead code elimination, exception handler pointer validation, process segment execution, segment address offset randomization. And for each one of these items, you can click on the item to find out more information. Again, talk to your vendors. This is one that you may not have a lot of ability to control. You may have to discuss it with them and see what they're doing. Next up, with credential hardening, this is where you do start to have more direct control over what you can do in these situations. Multi-factor authentication is one that we love and we hate at the same time. It's one of the easiest things to do in terms of protecting your environment, as well as one of the hardest things to implement, especially if you have mixtures of applications, if you have users that need different kinds of tokens, if you have different two-factor tokens, if you have phone policies. Bottom line, this may take a lot of time to implement, but if you do take the time to do it, it has an excellent chance of helping you out in the long term. Another one to look at is a strong password policy. This is one that needs both policies at the domain as well as an education side of it. It's not enough to just merely set the policy. You need to educate the end user as to what a good policy, and especially these days, how to handle passwords correctly, how to ensure that they're not reused, how to ensure that they're stored securely, how to ensure that they're not phished out, meaning that someone can't call in and pretend to be the help desk and get that password. Message hardening. This is either easy because it's done by your mail vendor, or it's a little bit harder, especially if you have multiple mail processes that you use in your organization. Let's say you do bulk emailing for purposes of marketing and you use a third-party service for that. This can be a little bit tricky to get all of the SPFs and the DKIMs set just so. You're going to probably have to go back and forth between reading mail headers and sending out test messages to see if you've got it right. Sometimes it also means working with a third-party bulk mail vendor to see what they need as far as settings in your own domain name. So sometimes you have to get specific settings from your vendors and put it in your DNS records. Last but certainly not least is the whole category of platform hardening. Now this is what we typically spend a lot of time on, especially on Patch Tuesday, the software update section, but we may not spend as much time as we should on these other sections. Disk encryption in particular, if we don't encrypt the disk, we're not protecting that data appropriately. And Microsoft with Windows 11 and their TPS and some of their processor mandates are going to push us more into this bootloader authentication, driver load integrity checking, TPM boot integrity. These three we don't tend to do a lot right now unless you're in a regulated industry, and those three are going to be pushed down to us due to Windows 11 hardware mandates. So do you get the idea that take a look at this section over here in hardening and see what options you can do in your organization, and what you can do to strengthen and defend yourself better. Until next time, this is Susan Bradley for CSO Online.